Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Deji Badimasi. Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan says his government is investigating claims by an Australian clergyman, Stephen Davis, who recently named a former governor of the troubled northeastern state of Borno and a former army chief as sponsors of militant Islamist sect Boko Haram. The sect has been engaged in an almost 5-year insurgency to establish an Islamic state in the north of Nigeria. Davis, who says he was contracted by the Nigerian government to negotiate the release of the over 200 abducted Chibok girls back in April, pointedly accused both Ali Modu Sharif and retired Major General Azubike Hejerika of sponsoring Boko Haram. President Jonathan, in a statement by his spokesperson, said the findings of the ongoing investigation of the claims would be made public. He also denied hobnobbing with Modu Sharif, who recently defected to his party. Nigeria's main opposition, All Progressives Congress, had accused the president of associating with an alleged Boko Haram sponsor after a photograph showed the president and Modu Sharif at an audience with the president of Chad when Jonathan visited that country recently for bilateral talks on combating terrorism. But presidential spokesperson Ruben Abati said Modu Sharif was not part of the government delegation that accompanied the president to Chad, but was there at his own instance. The Nigerian government has deployed more than 500 troops to the northeast as reinforcement to tackle the Boko Haram insurgency in some communities in the area. Coordinator of the National Information Center, Mike Omeri, said Thursday in Abuja, while giving update on the security situation in the area, that the troops would soon flush out insurgents from communities in Adamawa State where the insurgents have actually gained a foothold. Just yesterday, residents of some of the towns the insurgents overran confirmed that normalcy has returned there and that the military is back in charge. In the towns of Minchika and Madagali, residents say the insurgents suffered heavy losses when local vigilante groups pounced on them on discovering they had run out of ammunition. About 80 of the insurgents were reportedly killed.
As part of the efforts being made to check incursions and military Boko Haram challenge, the Nigerian military has continued to reinforce its presence in several challenged communities in the northeast. Contrary to media reports of the sacking of some towns in Adamawa State, such as Mubi, military authorities have confirmed the renewed deployment of more than 500 troops, or about that, to support the expedition around that area, including Gulak, Michika, and Krishinga, among others. We believe that with this commitment and efforts, the situation will be brought under control. What we said here is that, contrary to media reports of the sacking of some towns in Adamawa State, such as Mubi, military authorities have confirmed the renewed deployment of additional troops to flush out the insurgents in Gulak, Michika, and Krishinga, among others.
Well, to health issues now, a female student of the Obafemi Awolowo University who was moved to Lagos following reports she may be infected with the deadly Ebola virus has tested negative to the virus. Public Relations Officer of the school, Biodun Olariwaju, Thursday confirmed 2 tests carried out on blood samples of the student both turned out negative. The PRO said the result of a third test done on the student would be out later today, and that doctors from the school were optimistic that it would be negative. The female student, who reportedly hails from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, is suspected to be a secondary contact of Dr. Ike Enemo, who died of the Ebola virus after secretly treating an infected ECOWAS diplomat in a hotel in the city. She had been placed under surveillance in Port Harcourt before she was certified okay, having tested negative to the virus. Meanwhile, the management of the university has barred its students who are from Liberia and other West African countries hit by the Ebola virus from returning to the university. The Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Bamitale Omoli, said this Thursday at a press conference he addressed in Ife. Now, Nigeria appears to be making steady progress in its bid to fully contain the Ebola virus disease, which, by the way, was imported to the country by late Liberian-American Patrick Sawyer. As at yesterday, Wednesday, September 11th, the country had no patient of the Ebola virus disease at its treatment center. Here's the Minister of Health now with the update as at yesterday.
On the total number of cases that have been treated in our facilities and discharged, either in Lagos or in Port Harcourt, that's in Rivers State, stands at 10. The last 2 cases to be discharged were this week. Just on Sunday, last Sunday, the sister of the Port Harcourt doctor who had died from Ebola virus disease was discharged from the isolation ward in Rivers State. Then, just yesterday, the wife of that doctor was discharged from the isolation ward in Lagos. So what it means is, as at the present time, the 2 isolation wards that have been active in Lagos State and Rivers State, respectively, are empty. We don't have anybody now we are treating actively for Ebola virus disease as at this moment. Now, when you talk of survivors of Ebola virus disease, those that have been known to have survived Ebola virus disease in Nigeria include these 10 that were managed in our wards and discharged, plus 2 who actually recovered rather spontaneously. Both of them had a short period of illness. Their symptoms were mild, but all the tests indicated that they did suffer Ebola virus disease. One of them, of course, you know, is the ECOWAS staff who moved from Lagos to Port Harcourt and started the journey that Rivers State had begun. The other one is, of course, the one I just told you, the 19th case, a fiancé to one of those who had died from Ebola virus disease. So if we are looking at total number of survivors in Nigeria from Ebola virus disease known to us, 12. But those that we managed and discharged, 10 out of the total 19 cases that have so far been confirmed in Nigeria.
Well, let's turn to politics now. The decision by the Independent National Electoral Commission to create additional polling units in the country before the 2015 general elections is generating so much controversy, with several groups accusing the commission of favoring the north of the country now over the south. Now, how do you want to ask? It's very simple. The reason is that of the 30,027 polling units the commission plans to create, just slightly over 8,000 will be created in the south, while the remaining will be in the north of the country. Now, despite INEC's explanations that people should not just look at the numbers but the details, quite a number of groups have been protesting. One of them is Akai Kinga, the Igbo socio-political group, which is asking INEC not to go ahead with the creation of the additional polling units. President of the group, Godi Wazirike, in a statement Thursday said INEC chairman Professor Tahiru Jega would only be heating up the polity if he went ahead to create the polling units. The group urged the commission to cancel the creation of all the extra polling units already created. Meanwhile, some other groups and analysts are reacting to INEC's plan to create additional polling units and actually calling for the resignation of the Commission's chairman, Professor Tahiru Jega. The Southern Nigeria People's Assembly say they want Professor Jega to resign from office with immediate effect. Leaders of the group, which include former Vice President Alex Ekweme, a former Federal Minister of Information Edwin Clark, and Senator Femi Okuromu, said the action was not justifiable. Now, the group did not stop there. It asked President Goodluck Jonathan to reorganize the composition and structure of INEC immediately. In a communique issued at the end of the group's meeting in Abuja, the southern leaders faulted Jega's plan, describing it as an ethnic agenda. Separately, Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi has also asked INEC to explain the reason for creating the additional polling units in order to douse the suspicion the plan has generated among Nigerians. Now, INEC has not been quiet in the face of all the controversy. In fact, the Commission has been explaining its position on what the creation of the additional polling unit actually entails. Take a listen now to the chairman.
The additional 30,027 polling units, as I have mentioned, are being created to address the issue of crowd clusters under the present structure. Therefore, the distribution could not be even among all the states because the challenge being addressed is not evenly present in all the states. We have used voting points since 2011 to mitigate this problem of crowd structures. And I have mentioned how many parties accused us for using voting points. In fact, by creating these additional polling units, all we are doing in most cases is to formalize those existing voting points. Talking about numbers, critics of the exercise should ask, in which states have we had more voting points created in the existing PUs than others since 2011? And then they should check whether the distribution profile of the new PUs does not reflect the proportion of that informal arrangement. Then there is a question of, does the number of polling units confer any political advantage to a region or to a state or to any political party? With the structure of the political process put in place by the present INEC, the answer is simply no. There is no political advantage in the creation of polling units to any individual, to any party, or to any region. If there is any advantage, it is to the voter. It makes it easier for voters in a polling unit than so far they have had it in the conduct of election. Polling units constitute a mere structural arrangement to ease the access of voters to the ballot box. They have nothing to do with determining the preferences of voters in making their electoral choices. In fact, the new configuration we are putting in place will bring the polling units out of places where they can be accessed more easily, not only by voters, but even by polling agents of political parties and election observers as well. This will enhance rather than detract from the integrity of the electoral process. So for the avoidance of doubt, the Commission has not yet even created the additional polling units. It has simply approved the framework and the guidelines to facilitate the creation of these additional polling units by the resident electoral commissioners and the state offices of INEC.
Now, Professor Jega did not just stop there. He also gave reasons why it has become necessary to create the additional polling units. Take a listen.
The basic aim of the exercise we are presently undertaking is to ease the access of voters to the ballot box in the 2015 general elections and beyond. And we want to do this by, 1, decongesting overcrowded polling units and dispersing voters as evenly as possible among polling units. 2, locating polling units more effectively within commuting distances of voters, given that movement is usually restricted on election day. 3, relocating the polling units from in front of private houses and such other unsuitable places to public buildings, or where this is not possible, to public open spaces where tents can then be provided. 4, locating the polling units inside classrooms or such other suitable enclosures in line with international best practices. 5, splitting large polling units such that they have an average of 500 registered voters. And 6, creating additional polling units to cater for the splitting of large polling units as well as for new settlements not serviced by any existing polling unit.
Well, genuine reasons there you want to say. Now, to cap it all, the INEC chairman made it clear that there's no ulterior motive to the plan and that everything is geared towards a more transparent election in 2015.
The Commission implores all Nigerians to set aside primordial sentiments and view the exercise with dispassion and patriotism, taking into account the lofty objectives that the new structure of polling units is intended to achieve. Finally, I wish to categorically state that all the conspiracy theories and mischievous assertions and perceptions of parochial intentions of the Commission are totally false. INEC remains focused and committed to taking patriotic decisions which are in the best interest of our country and the voters, so as to keep on satisfying the aspirations of Nigerians for free, fair, peaceful, and credible elections. We will continue to do this with the best standards of integrity, impartiality, and non-partisanship expected of us as an election management body.
Well, we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll look at business and other stories. Don't go away.
The new thing in music is African music. It's fresh. It's very, very energetic. Hey, what's up, my people? They call me Two-Face Idibia. And right here, right now, it's One Love all the way from Afrima. Everybody, come out, come out, come out. Afrima Awards. Come out, One Love. Yes, sir.
Lower than the depths of the ocean. Further than the ice can see. When we talking spirituality, open your eyes, spiritually. Free your mind from hate.
Welcome back. Barely 4 months after he assumed office as the head of Italy's biggest listed company, the chief executive of the Italian oil and natural gas firm ENI is under investigation over international corruption allegations. Claudio Descalzi actually is facing questions about a huge Nigerian oil deal. The company said in a statement it is cooperating with the Milan prosecutor's office and that it continues to deny any illegal conduct. A former head of its core exploration and production division, Descalzi took over in May 2014 from Paolo Scaroni, who is also under investigation for alleged corruption in Algeria. Descalzi could not immediately be raised for comments, but ENI also confirmed its operation and technology officer Roberto Casula was also being probed. The dispute between Shell's Nigerian subsidiary and Malabu arose after the federal government revoked Malabu's license to the block in 2001, following the death in 1998 of former head of state General Sani Abacha. In 2002, the administration of then-President Olusegun Obasanjo awarded the exploration rights to the oil block to the Shell subsidiary. This sparked an ownership dispute that lasted nearly a decade, leading in 2011 to a two-tier deal. The field was eventually sold to ENI and Shell in 2011 for a total of $1.3 billion, including a signature bonus of around $207 million. Malabu received around $1.09 billion from the sale, while the federal government kept the balance, a British court document has shown. President Obama told Americans he had authorized U.S. airstrikes for the first time in Syria and more attacks in Iraq in a broad escalation of a campaign against the Islamic State militant group. In a speech outlining his strategy Thursday, Obama said any group that threatened America would find no safe haven. He also announced that 475 U.S. military personnel would be sent to Iraq, but said they would not have a combat role. 10 Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, agreed to rally with the U.S. in tackling the threat posed by Islamic State jihadists after U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with the leaders in Saudi Arabia in America's attempt to build a coalition against Islamic State militants. IS controls large parts of Syria and Iraq after a rapid military advance. Its fighters have become notorious for their brutality, beheading enemy soldiers and Western journalists on video. The U.S. has launched over 150 airstrikes against the group in Iraq and has provided arms to Iraqi and Kurdish forces fighting against IS. Meanwhile, Russia has warned that U.S. airstrikes against militants in Syria would be a gross violation of international law. A Russian foreign ministry spokesman said any such action without the backing of the UN would be an act of aggression. Never agreeing to anything at all, both sides. Now, not guilty of murder. That was a verdict heard all over the world for South African athlete Oscar Pistorius. The judge presiding over the sprinter's trial Thursday ruled out murder charges. Judge Thokozile Masipa said the prosecution had failed to prove the Olympic athlete killed his girlfriend deliberately in the toilet after a row, adding that most of the witnesses were unreliable as they were confused and inaccurate when given testimony. The statement prompted tears from Pistorius, who cried several times during the proceedings, but she said he acted too hastily and his conduct was clearly negligent. She also described him as an evasive witness, but said this did not mean he was guilty. The South African Olympic sprinter had denied intentionally murdering his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp, on Valentine's Day last year, saying he thought there was an intruder. Steenkamp, a 29-year-old model and law graduate, was hit 3 times by bullets shot through a toilet door by Pistorius at his home in Pretoria. Before the fatal shooting, the 27-year-old athlete was featured in South Africa and known as the Blade Runner. He had won gold at the London 2012 Paralympic Games and also competed at the Olympics. While he's not guilty of premeditated murder, he waits to find out if he's guilty of culpable homicide, which is the negligent death of another, when the court resumes Friday. Boxing champion Floyd Mayweather has revealed he plans to hang his boxing gloves in 2015. The 37-year-old said he intends to have 2 more fights after Saturday's rematch with Marcos Maidana in Las Vegas before his early retirement. However, Mayweather quashed reports that he is in talks with Philippine legend Manny Pacquiao. Mayweather, who is unbeaten in 46 professional fights, earned a majority decision over Argentine Maidana in May. Mayweather is successful in his 3 remaining contracted fights with American broadcaster Showtime, he will be level with heavyweight great Rocky Marciano, who retired with 49 wins and no defeats. And the idea of going one better than Marciano and reaching 50-0 could alter Mayweather's retirement plans. The return bout with Maidana at the MGM Grand is only the second rematch Mayweather, who will be defending his WBC and WBA welterweight and WBC middleweight belt, has granted since he turned pro in 1996. I must say this guy can just not afford to lose this next bout. Can only wish him all the best of luck, Mayweather. A very great boxer. That's it on News Now. We thank you very much for watching. We're back again later. Good night.